So we have a nice page here. And what are we going to do? Because I want to do a watercolor background, but I also have to be very careful not to get all of the watercolor on the leaves and the flowers here. And we have some very small details here. Well, I will use my masking fluid because this is a situation where masking fluid is the answer to your worries. And I have opened it and you can see it is right here, and I will have to use a smaller pencil. And you can see here we just lay down a layer of this masking fluid here. Because this should prevent the watercolor from penetrating. So we have a layer of this fluid to protect the drawing here. And of course this shouldn't be on more than it has to. So as soon as you have applied this and you have applied the watercolor, then you must remove this. As this masking fluid dries, you will notice that it's like a sort of a rubber surface it gives to your coloring page here. And be sure to let it dry before you begin adding the watercolor. You can see here it's a bit sticky, but otherwise it's dry now. So how do you use watercolors? Well, if I just remove this book here, I have my watercolor palette here, and these are Windsor and Newton watercolors, and you can see they are just lying here. Some of them I have never used and some of them I have. Then I have a little spray here with water, and then I just activate the colors I want to use here. So these are some red clover flowers, I think. And I would like to have a, I could go with a green background for these, but the leaves are also green. So I think I want to go with a sort of pinkish background. I know this one is a sort of dark purple like color. So I will activate it by spraying it with some water. This one is an even darker purple. And I also give this a little bit of water because this activates the watercolor, and then you can begin, it dissolves the top layer of the watercolor, and then in a minute I can begin blending and taking the color out here on my palette, and I can add more water and I can make it a very pale color or a stronger color depending on what I want. Here we have a dark red. I will also activate this dark red. Then I spray just a little bit of water here on my palette, And now I take my watercolor brush. This is also a Windsor Newton. This is size 8 because this is a nice size for when you want to do some backgrounds. So I will just take this is when it dissolves. You can see it's a more pinkish color and not that purple. And you can see, unfortunately, I did get some of it over here on the purple one. I also have a paper towel and a jar of water to clean my brush with before I begin with this watercolor business. So I would like the purple color to come over here. And now I mix it with the water. And now I remove this and I take my book. And please notice that, of course, I have put some paper here behind this page. So I will just begin adding my watercolor here on the page. And because I have used masking fluid, which I don't normally do, I can just add the color, and I don't mind if it goes over the motif here. Add more color to my palette and more water. And then I just keep on going here. So I want my dark color to be here. Of course, I will have to be a bit careful here. I could have used some masking tape with the other side here, the other page here, but I haven't done that because I am capable of making a fine little line here. And I don't think that I will splash that much. So you can see it's so very easy to use watercolors when you have used this masking fluid. And you can see, of course, it affects the paper because watercolor will do that. I will just add a tiny bit of water here for the last bit. Of course, you will have to be careful when you use actual watercolors in these books. Although the paper I find in Hanna Karlzon books, it can take fairly good amounts of water. You just have to be careful anyway, because it can bleed through here with the binding. So I will just rinse. And now I will reactivate because the pink surface here has dried out. And I want to add a bit more. Hope you can see here. I can just show you my palette here. I have used the purple and now I am mixing some pink. And the pink color I want to be here in the middle. You can see here where I have been a little bit careless. I have had too much masking fluid right here and right here. So I will have to, well, use some coloring pencil to cover those areas. And then we mix this pink color a bit with the purple here. Just need to make a bit more pink. So when you get into watercolor, it's really not that difficult. I mean, it looks difficult, but it really isn't. So we add a bit more pink up here. Time to clean my brush, and I can see here that I will have to reactivate my purple because I have not got enough color here. But watercolor is really, really fun. I will clean my brush again. And now I will make a red, dark red palette and reactivate my dark red. And I will add the red down here. And I will add quite a bit of the color here because I want it to be seen, this red color. So this is one of the first pages in this book, and that is why I know that the opposite page of this is I think it's a name page where you write your name. So it's not one of the big pages, you know, with a lot of motifs on it. I will just take the red and move it up a bit here with the pink and the purple. So, and now I will just clean up my brush, and I will just have some clean water on my palette. I just spray a little bit of clean water, add it to my brush, no color, and just add it here to sort of dissolve the red much better into the pink and the purple parts here. So you can see the page is in some places quite soaked. And then you can add splatters if you want with another color. I'm not quite sure that I want it, but anyway, I want this to be dried before I do anything else. Also because you don't need to keep the masking fluid too long, because then you can have difficulties removing it. So it's a matter of masking fluid, drying it, paint, watercolor, drying it, and then removing the masking fluid before it sits too long. So I will just dry this one. So when I say dry, I mean use a hair dryer, because it dries much faster that way. And you can see here on the other page, we have a little bit of bleed through here, but it was also extremely wet there, a little bit here. But you always have to be careful. Examine the page before the one you want to use watercolor on, before you begin using watercolors. There are some pages in here where I would not dare using watercolors because I would be afraid to ruin the page after them. This page you could also use watercolors, but look at this beautiful page here. I have plans to do this later this year. I don't want to risk ruining this page, so here I will use another background and not watercolor. A lot of people on YouTube show you how to use watercolors, but they seldomly show you the page behind the page that they had used watercolor on. And in my experience, the pages behind, when you use real watercolors and not just Inkten's or watercolor pencils, they do tend to be affected by this when you use watercolors. So be careful when you use watercolors, and if you use them, then be prepared that the page just behind it might be affected by it and sometimes might even be ruined by it. And you can see here I have cleaned my palette. I will let it open until the water dries on the colors I used, and then I will, of course, put it away on the shelf. And now for removing the masking liquid. Removing the masking liquid. Now it's time to remove the masking liquid, but to prevent bleed through on these areas we have sheltered with the masking fluid, you have to make quite sure that this is really dry. And then you can take a good hard eraser. I have one here and I don't use it for anything else. So I can use it, so you can just see here, removing this masking liquid. And I do apologize about the background noises, but my dog is grooming himself, and it's a bit noisy when he does it. And see here, sometimes you can just grab it and remove it. It's like a sort of a rubber film you can just peel off. And this masking fluid I used was from, I think it was the one from Windsor Newton. So this one is certainly very good. If you get it going, then you can simply peel it off. Not all masking fluids are peelable, if I can use that word. Some of them will crumble and you will have to remove it step by step, but you can see this one is amazing. Whoops, because I can just, as you can see, peel it off. But it depends on the brand of masking fluid that you have bought. And also be careful, because sometimes when there is color on top of it, it might get through to the other side here, which I am afraid it has. But anyway, the more you use this masking fluid, the better you will get at it. And you can see here we have, after all, prevented a lot of color on these flowers and leaves. You can also use the liquid masking film from Royal Talens. And here I have my Berettelser from Atlantis, Tales from Atlantis. And you can see I go to this page a little bit different, because here on the other side I have a very beautiful double page spread that I have colored a long time ago, and I don't want to damage this page. So I have used tape, not washi tape, but painting tape. This one that I use when I paint on canvases with my acrylic paint. And I have just placed it here. And then I have placed a piece of paper behind this page. And I have used tape to prevent it from getting some of the watercolor here around the edges, because usually I am very unlucky and then I always spill some of the watercolor. So let us try this liquid masking film from Royal Talens. And this is to show you can also use it in bigger motifs. And I have here some brushes, and you can see I have just a normal brush here, and got a little bit too much on it, and I am just applying. Ooh, it doesn't smell very good, I have to say. So here, when you have larger areas, it's best to use a bigger brush. time to remove this. Oh, and this is very easy. Just like the other one I used, you can see here, you can just begin to, well, sort of peel it off. I dare say that it's even a little bit easier than the other one. Well, you have to just, you know, hold back here so we don't ruin the paper. But look here, it just took almost all of these little details. Oh, wow, this was really easy compared to the other masking fluid I used. This is absolutely brilliant. Look here, we just have a few, and I can just scratch it off with my nail here. A little bit here. And here you can see we will just have to add a little bit of coloring pencil, a little bit of detail here and there. But and I don't even need this rubber. I can just take here with my finger and just peel off everything here. Whoa, this was absolutely brilliant. So this liquid masking film from Royal Talens was way easier than the one from Windsor Newton. This was absolutely brilliant. So now it's time to wrap up this video, and in the end I will show you the finished results of both of these colorings here. So here is the finished result of this page where I used the Windsor Newton art masking fluid, and I have to say that this one, when you layer it thin, does have a few holes where this paint apparently did penetrate. And you can see here, here there were a couple of places where this watercolor background did stain the motif here. But on the other hand, this one was absolutely brilliant. There wasn't any on the seahorse, only the places where it sort of lacked, where it had been too much here. So I had to correct it a little bit with coloring pencil, and then I erased most of it just to get a little bit of color down. But otherwise, it did not stain the seahorse. And that was the Royal Talens liquid masking film I use. It smells really bad, but I do think it's better and much easier to remove than the Windsor Newton art masking fluid. It was okay to remove, but it did require a bit more work than the other one. So I hope that this video gave you an idea about how to use masking fluid in adult coloring books. So please give this video a thumbs up, a like. It really does help my channel. Thank you so much also for watching. If you're new here and you just happen to stumble upon this video, consider subscribing to my channel. You can also support me on Ko-fi. I'm trying to save up to the Caran Luminance Pablo pencils to use them here on my channel, and you can make a small donation on my Ko-fi. If you have any ideas for content in these tips and tricks video, write it down in the comments below. So until I see you in the next video, have a lovely day. Take care of yourself. Happy coloring. Bye.